Hi YouTube, it's Gypsy Journey Reviews back with another review. Today I thought I'd do something a little different. Instead of reviewing just a product and giving my opinion on it and hoping for comments and suggestions, I do a theme instead and try out gypsy jazz on a budget. I don't know about the rest of you, but I myself am on a very strict budget. I'm actually unemployed at the moment. I got injured at work and my employer will not let me return to work. And so I've been unemployed for about a year, and that makes it really difficult to get things. And so I always look for deals, discounts, things like that. Because of that, I thought, like I said, I'd do a video on gypsy jazz on a budget. Do you really need to spend, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on gypsy jazz guitars, products, things like that, for what tone you can get? And I go back to something my best friend Paul once told me. That tone is in your hands. It really is. A good acoustic guitar makes a difference. Don't get me wrong. If you want a good acoustic guitar, you're going to spend probably a good $300 or $400 on a good acoustic guitar. That's just the way of things. You can usually get a good Western, by Western I mean American, guitar from Yamaha for about 180, maybe 200 bucks. But a really nice acoustic guitar is probably going to cost you about $300, maybe $400 to just to get. So a friend of mine here in Tulsa named Gene let me borrow his classic Regal from the 60s Archtop. And this was picked up at a flea market for 50 bucks. Now, he strung it with gypsy jazz guitar strings in the hopes of learning gypsy jazz guitar and wanted my opinion of the guitar and whether or not you could play gypsy jazz on a non-gypsy jazz guitar. So I'm going to play some here in just a little bit. And I think, as I look at the gypsy jazz guitars I have, I look at the Western guitars that I have, the American or, whatever style you want to call it, I'll just call them Western for now, style guitars that I have, the gypsy jazz guitars have a lot more resonance to them. Whether it's how they're built, in the construction inside, maybe the thickness of the actual cedar spruce tops of the guitars, the mix of those items with gypsy jazz strings makes a difference, because you do get a much more resonant, fuller sound from a gypsy jazz guitar than you do from just a traditional acoustic. But on a budget, as we know, Django himself played Archtop guitars. Now, of course, this is an Archtop acoustic electric, but if he can get the tone out of an Archtop, not just because he's Django Reinhardt, but he can get the tone out of an Archtop, the question then becomes, can you get good gypsy jazz tones out of a $50 flea market find? And I think you can. So today I thought I would go back through some of the items I've purchased and make a video specifically for gypsy jazz guitars on a budget. And the first thing I'd like to do is go back to this book that Robin Nolan wrote called Beginner Gypsy Jazz Guitar. This book is essential to my learning of gypsy jazz guitar. Robin has been a wealth of information. Look him up on YouTube. You'll find all sorts of free lessons, and that's gonna really advance your playing more than anything else. He goes over, like I said before, you can look at my review of the book. I don't want to spend a lot of time doing a second review, but he has pillars of learning: chords, scales, arpeggios, shapes, major, minors, soloing, ear training skills, how to make music together, how to gig. All sorts of just a wealth of information. And this book is relatively cheap. I want to say it's maybe, between $10 and $20. So, this book is cheap. It's on Amazon. There's a link in my original review of the book, but you can find it on Amazon really easily. I highly recommend this book for beginner gypsy jazz guitar players. The second item is strings. Now, Argentine strings are considered the best, and I love them. I have a set on my Grand Bouche guitar, but they're expensive. You can get by with D'Addario ball end light gauge silver-plated Gypsy Jazz guitar strings. I've got those, in fact, on my Gypsy Jazz Sagano. Gene put them on his flea market find, and it sounds really good. So like I said, we'll get to playing that here in just a second. As for picks, you know that I've done a wealth of pick reviews, and some of the picks were cheap, some of the picks were expensive, so anywhere from $2 to $25. If you can't afford $25 for a pick, which I know a lot of us can't, it took me a long time to save up to get a Gypsy Jazz pick. But I get by nowadays with my go-to pick is the 2mm Ernie Ball Prodigy, which you should be able to find at the Guitar Center or any guitar place, or you can buy them online. The review I have of the picks has a link to where you can purchase them. And so a good 2mm pick that doesn't bend, a good set of D'Addario strings, and the most important part, finding the guitar. So let's look at the flea market find guitar and see what we can find. So first off, as I said before, my friend Paul told me that and taught me when he was teaching me guitar that tone is primarily in your hands. I mean, think about it this way. You could give Pablo Picasso a house brush and he'll paint you something beautiful. It's just that's the mystery of the art. Okay, so same thing with guitar. You know, you could give Stevie Ray Vaughan a Les Paul, and he's still going to get that Stevie Ray Vaughan tone and feel and emphasis. Same thing with Eric Clapton or any host of guitar players. You could give them any guitar. Buddy Guy. I'm a blues player, so I immediately think of the blues. Give them any guitar, and it's going to sound good. In fact, there's a video I'm going to link if I can find the video. It's John 5 playing a Hello Kitty kid's guitar and playing riffs on it. That's how important it is to know that you are the creator of tone, that the instrument matters somewhat, but it's really you who creates the tone. So for example, on this guitar here, it's got some problems. I mean, there's probably a little bit of a bow in the neck, but it's a flea market find. It's $50. But let's listen to just a little bit of minor swing and see what we think. If I could play it correctly, that would help. It's not as resonant as my Gypsy Jazz guitar. It's maybe a little bit brighter in some cases because maybe it's just got a little bit more of a treble tone in it than it does a bass tone. But let's play some chords. Here's Sweet Georgia Brown. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. So for rhythms, and I think rhythm is probably the most important part of Gypsy Jazz, learning how to play rhythms on a arch top sounds wonderful. I really do think it sounds good. You might disagree with me, which is fine. Please leave a comment if you do. Let's try a little bit of Nuage. timer started to go off there. Here's a little bit of Dark Eyes. So maybe the high notes don't sound as good as they, as they do on a gypsy jazz guitar, which I'm going to play just a little bit of it now. But again, this guitar is over 50 years old. It was $50. You know, it's not something I would probably want to perform with unless I got it reset and got a full, neck reset on it and things like that. But how many of us are gigging right now, and how many of us could afford, a good $400? Now, all of my gypsy jazz guitars I got secondhand. I got them off of eBay, and that's a really good resource to look for. They're also Chinese made, so they're Sagano, but they're Chinese made, and they sound wonderful. Here's Dark Eyes. So you can see how this guitar projects more. That's the nature of what a acoustic guitar is supposed to do. It's supposed to project. It's just how it's built. It's how it's constructed. It's how the gypsy jazz guitars were made, with the sound box or some type of projection technology inside to make them sound louder, because they needed to be able to be heard. So, if you can't afford this one, which was again about $400, then I highly recommend looking up Archtops on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Reverb, and seeing what you can find, or going to your local, maybe not flea markets, but maybe your local pawn shops, and seeing what you can find for Archtops, because Archtops are going to sound just like jazz. Like I said before, here's Django playing an Archtop, Archtop electric, but still an Archtop nonetheless, and getting the tone that we all know and love. So, gypsy jazz on a budget is doable. It is doable. You can learn on YouTube. You can learn just on the internet alone. There's a bunch of websites that have free tabs and free chord progressions. They teach about enclosures. They teach about jazz chords. So the internet, of course, as everybody knows, I don't have to tell you, is a wealth of information. But just spend some time on there. Spend some time on YouTube, especially Robin Nolan. Look up Robin Nolan on YouTube. His lessons will change your playing, and I highly recommend Robin's teaching. Again, the D'Addario strings over the Argentine strings. The Argentine strings are better, but they do cost probably about double, if not 3 times as much as the D'Addario. So, gypsy jazz on a budget is doable. It is capable to do. I really like the sound of the flea market find for $50 that Gene let me borrow. So thank you, Gene, for letting me borrow that guitar. Yeah, I really want to have some questions and comments on this one, just to see what people think. Do you really have to spend $2,000 on a really nice gypsy jazz guitar? Or can you get by with the Sagano or even a flea market find? And I think you can. So I hope this video has been helpful. Again, like, subscribe, comment below if you would. I would really appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys later. Thank you. Bye-bye.